are we ready for a motion? Okay,
Sure.
Nimrod?
I'll move a motion to approve the variances as amended. And I understand variance number 4 has been removed. And I would like to add a condition subject to tying it to the site plan, given the unusual nature of the lot line pattern. So that would be my motion.
Okay, Carl, you second that motion?
Would you consider a friendly amendment? I would tie it to all the drawings, all of the revised drawings, and I'd be happy to second the motion.
Sure, that's good.
Okay, so Carl seconded. All in favor? You have your approval, thank you. Number 33, 1810 Dundas Street East. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear deck and rear detached garage. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant in 2 form letters in support. Mr. Skeen?
Yes, hello. I'm Angus Skeen. I'm the agent and architect for the application.
Okay, so, yeah.
I'm happy to speak or take any questions.
Yeah, I don't, it doesn't look like we need a presentation. Is there anything that, before we go to committee, is there anything you want to say? Mr. Skeen?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's addressed to me? No, to be honest, I believe the 2 letters are from immediate neighbors. I think that speaks well of the proposal. I think the variances, I can certainly explain them, but I think given the site, they're within reason. Certainly, it's a long-term property owner here since 1992. It's a case of making some changes and actually increasing the soft landscaping on the property.
Yeah, so it looks straightforward, so we'll take it to committee. Committee, do you have any questions or comments, or is someone prepared to make a motion? Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any trouble. I'm not sure I understand the new deck.
Sure.
Is it simply that landing and the stairs? Is that it?
That's correct, yes.
And that's referred to as the deck?
Yeah, I know. It sounds like more than it is. It's really a stair with a landing at the...
I kept looking for this major deck and didn't see it. No, if nobody has any difficulty with this, I'm happy to move approval without conditions. It's a very straightforward and minor application.
Peter, you second that motion? All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, number 34, 685 Queen Street East. And the purpose of this application is to alter the interior of the existing 3-story apartment building and to construct a rear 5-story addition, resulting in a total of 26 units. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from Heritage Planning, Heritage Preservation, staff report from Planner, Strategic Initiatives, Policy and Analysis, from the Housing Secretariat. We have a letter from Counselor. We have support from the Secretary of the Board of Directors of Riverdale Cooperative Houses, and from the Executive Director, Cooperative Housing Federation of Toronto, and we have confirmation of eligibility for fee exemption letter from the Executive Director, Housing Secretariat. Okay. Mr. Hoon.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Or good evening, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's evening now. So can we have your name and your presentation.
Sure. My name is David Hun. I'm a planner at Bousfields, and our address is 3 Church Street, Suite 200 in Toronto. And, you know, we are planning consultants for streetcar developments, the construction partner for Riverside Cooperative Houses, who are the owners of the property at 685 Queen Street East. On behalf of Streetcar Developments and Riverside Cooperative Houses, I would like to recommend that the committee approve the minor variance application, subject to the recommended conditions, to permit the expansion of the existing affordable housing project to create 17 additional affordable units and replace the 9 existing ones that are with new ones. It's my opinion that the 5 requested variances collectively and cumulatively satisfy the 4 tests, and I echo the support and non-objection from the various city departments, including the Housing Secretariat, Heritage, and Housing Policy, and that there's note that there's no comments from City Planning and Transportation Services, as well as the letters of support, as you had indicated before, from the councillor and the various housing federations. The proposed expansion of the existing building is to increase the number of affordable units from 9 to 26 on the site, and it is one of the first projects to be processed under the city's new Concept to Keys pilot project. As part of phase 1, Concept to Keys is prioritizing affordable housing development applications to streamline and speed up the planning approvals process to ensure timely delivery of affordable units in the city. In this regard, community planning, along with the other city departments, have been expeditiously processing the site plan application filed in December of 2020. It has been through the SPA process that the city planning staff have reviewed the building design to ensure compatibility and minimal built form impacts. As a result, the building has been revised as per staff comments and has resulted in the variances you see before you today. Through this process, we have been collaboratively working with the city on other matters such as rental replacement and heritage conservation. And on the heritage matters, it should be noted that on May 19th last week, Community Council adopted Toronto Preservation Board's recommendation to designate the heritage portion of the development, whereby heritage staff were satisfied that the proposal addressed the heritage conservation strategy. With respect to the rental demolition application, we are aware of staff's condition and are fine with them, but I should advise the committee that the city and the owners have had positive discussions on this and have recently held a tenants meeting and are in the midst of finalizing the rental replacement proposal and tenant compensation package. In closing, the proposed development has been sensibly designed to fit into the character of the area. The design and the resulting variances are the result of extensive review process with the city, and as a result, all the various departments have expressed their support or non-objection for the project. It is my opinion that, again, the variances satisfy the 4 tests, and I recommend approval of the application. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Panel, are there any questions? Yes, Nimrod?
Yeah, I noticed that there was an email correspondence from Heritage Planning saying they were going to submit a report, but I didn't actually see any report submitted, at least to the panel.
You're right. Through you, Mr. Chair, you're right. I didn't also see any follow-up report, but that said, I do note that this matter did go to the Toronto Preservation Board and was approved or recommended for approval there, and then that recommendation was carried forward at Community Council last week, of which at Toronto Preservation Board and at Community Council there was a staff report prepared that recommended approval of the scheme as they were satisfied that the heritage conservation strategy was appropriate.
And did Heritage Planning have any conditions for the variances then?
Yes, there's 5
No conditions as it related to the variances. In terms of the adoption of the recommendation, it was to enter into a heritage easement agreement, which that agreement is being finalized.
Well, there's a memorandum, May 18th, 2021. On the second page, it says conditions of approval of minor variance and lists 5 conditions. Are they not conditions for us to consider?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think that's in relation to the rental replacement aspect of the proposal. And again, those conditions we are fine with. So that is in regards to entering into a Section 111 agreement and satisfying the rental replacement aspects of the proposal.
So are those for us, Sylvia, are those for us to include? Yeah, okay. So, Nimrod, we have to include those as conditions if we decide to approve the application.
Right, I know that those were city planning division conditions. I was wondering if there was heritage planning report with condition, because normally we get a heritage planning report with the condition dealing with any heritage buildings.
Yeah, well, we don't have any.
Mr. Chairman, I think the issue is that when the agenda went to press, this building wasn't designated as a heritage building. As I understand from the presentation, that happened very recently. There is if Heritage was to report, their standard condition is a very straightforward one where they request submission of drawings so that the Heritage Department can ensure that they comply. I suspect that they're already doing that, but it might be wise to just include the quote standard heritage condition, which is submit for their approval.
Okay, any other questions or comments at this stage? So let's move on to Reza Hussain.
Hi, I'm just observing. No comment.
Okay, thank you. All right, so
Thank you.
we can go into committee and, any comments, or do we have a motion, Carl?
Mr. Chairman, this is a very welcome initiative, and in keeping with the expediting of process, I would like to move approval of the application. It's been vetted by virtually every applicable city department and agency. No one has raised objections. It's been sensitively designed to integrate into the community, and it provides a much needed service. I'd like to recommend approval subject to the conditions from planning strategic initiatives, which are those ones about renting, and the standard heritage condition, which I don't think will pose a problem, and I suspect that's what we would have received had they had time.
Do we have a seconder? Nimrod, all in favor? You have your approval, thank you. Number 35, 201 Glenhill Avenue. Purpose of this application is to convert the existing 2-story, 1-unit detached dwelling into a 2-story, 2-unit detached dwelling by creating a secondary suite, constructing a rear 2-story addition and a front porch. A rear detached garage will also be constructed. With this application, we have material from the applicant, we have correspondence and support from 210 Glenhill Avenue, and in opposition from 170 Oak Park Avenue. Shelley Canitz,
Hello.
hello. Okay, so can we have your name and your address?
Certainly. I'm Shelley Kanitz. I'm the owner of 201 Gledhill Avenue.
Right. Okay, can you just give us a presentation to just give us an idea of what you're doing and these variances?
Certainly. So we are, in the interest of missing middle housing, focusing our efforts in Toronto on houses with secondary suites. So we are proposing a unit in the basement, a nice sized 2-bedroom unit that would be below a family sized rental upstairs. Our variances are quite minor, and so with respect for the amount of time it takes to get through these, I'm going to be very brief and just say that variance number 1 about the exterior alteration, as a somewhat of a layman, I'm not even really sure how significant that alteration actually is. We are changing the facade of the house because we're basically renovating the whole house. And there is the entrance on the side to the basement that is visible from the street, so perhaps that's what they're talking about. I think that it's quite minor in nature. And variance 2 is basically the setback in the front, and that's to do a covered porch with a tasteful stair design. It's an architectural choice, and we think it's minor. So welcome to answer any questions, but I think that's it.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? All right, so Jessica Woods?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I live at 188 Oak Park Avenue. So our backyards meet with the GLEDHILL property. I think the only thing I wanted to understand is just to make sure that I think the tree protection zone is going to be respected, just given that it's a very, very large tree that basically leans onto kind of our property and the property next door to us. So just, I think in terms of where the garage sits, I did see in the, in the design specs here that I think there is kind of the circle for the protection zone. I just wanted to make sure that I think that's going to be respected and that we don't have to have any concerns about anything happening to the tree.
Hi, neighbor.
Hi.
So yeah, our garage has been strategically placed to avoid injuring the tree and avoiding having to apply for a permit to injure. That's not our intent at all, to impede upon the tree. We've placed the garage where we've placed it on purpose. And of course the TPZ will be respected. We comply with all necessary responsibilities when we construct the homes that we construct. It's strictly against our ethics to take any liberties as such.
Okay,
Sounds good,
so
thank you.
has there been an inspection by Urban Forestry? I don't see any letter from them.
No, because we're staying outside the TPZ. We're not actually impacting the tree at all. That was strategically done.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? All right, do we have any comments or a motion? Yim?
Yeah, if there aren't any additional comments, I would like to move for approval, and I do not think there are any conditions. Remind me? No.
Yep, okay. Did Carl second that? All right, all in favor? Have your approval, thank you. Number 3691 Bude Street.
Hi.
Just a minute, sir. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a front basement walkout, a front porch, and a side and rear addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, staff reports from planning and urban forestry. And you sir, are Mehdi Ajvan?
Yes, sir. I'm here. My name is Mehdi Ajman. I'm here as the architect of the project on 91 Bude Street. I believe that you already have a long day, so just be straightforward and go to the point. Basically, we are asking for these minor variances just regarding for the front porch. Basically, the whole project was addition renovation, as of right addition renovation. We got a permit for that, but during the construction, the client had to remove part of existing front porch to be able to get access to the basement, which is the only place that we could have access. And since part of the front porch was removed, then the examiner couldn't consider it existing to remain. So all these variances is applicable while we are still in a existing footprint of front porch, for both side setback and also the setback of stairs to the property line, and also the landscaping. We did a back and forth with the planning department, and happily we agreed to propose the cedar hedge at the front of walkout portion to be able to minimize the visual aspect of railing or this proposal. And we are agreed to tie all the document to the decision. And also I saw the urban forestry, we don't have to apply for any injury, and then so we are okay with all the urban forestry condition as well.
Okay, so panel, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, do we have any comments, or do we have a motion? Yes, Carl?
Mr. Chairman, unless my colleagues have any questions, I'd like to move approval of the application. The only variance that was of concern when I first reviewed the application was number 4, but it appears that the applicant has effectively negotiated a reasonable solution with the planning department, and the planning department is recommending a condition to cover that solution. So subject to planning condition that we have in our agenda and forestry conditions number 1 and 2, I'd like to move approval of the application. I think it's reasonable, and the variances are minor and in keeping with the official plan and bylaw.
Peter, did you second that? Are you seconding? Right, thank you. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. 3714 Balsam Avenue. And this is a application for consent to sever the property into 2 residential lots and to create 2 easement rights of way. And the conveyed lot, parts 2 and 4, have a lot frontage of 7.64 meters on Balsam Avenue, an area of 272 square meters. A new 3-story detached house will be constructed requiring variances, and parts 1 and 3 will be retained and have a lot frontage of 7.64 on Balsam Avenue, an area of 271.9 square meters. A new 3-story detached house will be constructed requiring variances. Part 3, an area of 11.1 square meters will be subject to an easement right-of-way for the purposes of pedestrian access to the rear yard in favor of parts 2 and 4, and part 4 has an area of 11.1 square meters and will be subject to an easement of right-of-way for the purposes of pedestrian access. So, and then dealing with parts 1 and 2, the purpose of the application is to construct a 3-story detached house with a front porch and a rear first floor deck. And parts 2 and 4, the purpose is to construct a 3-story detached house with a front porch and a rear first floor deck. A parking space will also be created in the front yard. On this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant, correspondence from urban forestry, reports from engineering and urban forestry, support from six letters of support, plus a total of 20 form letters in support. Interest from 10 Balsam Avenue, in opposition from 42 Balsam Avenue and 40 Balsam Avenue. And Mr. Romano.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Franco Romano, Action Planning Consultants, 2095 Autumn Breeze, Port Credit.
Okay, Mr. Romano, could you breeze through the application and give us your presentation?
Yes, sir. If I can put up, if staff could help me put up the slide that I have. Thank you kindly. Appreciate it. So these are two dwellings that are proposed on two lots that are fully compliant with the zoning bylaw. So there's no lot frontage or lot area that's necessary. It's in an area that's zoned to permit, and what exists are detached, semi-detached, attached to multiples, both along the street and in the surrounding neighborhood. So it is quite a variety of low-rise residential building types. The owners have engaged with the community since they purchased the property in the summer of 2019. And that, I think, is a testament to seeing the amount of support that is being submitted for these applications. The owners also engaged with the staff at the city, and that's why you'll see no objections, actually nothing from the planning department, because we worked with them and made some revisions, and that's the last set of drawings that have been submitted. And you've also seen some correspondence from the neighbor to the north, who's basically asked that the building be have a front yard setback generally where it is right now, and that the construction occurs substantially in accordance with the drawings on file, the revised drawings, being those January drawings that were submitted and are the subject of the variances, and the owner has no difficulty with any of those conditions. You'll see that the two dwellings are different. They're done on purpose to fit in with the variety that's found on the street and in the surrounding area. And they are tapered. So they set back from, as one moves from the first floor to the third floor, and it's basically a half story in it's 2.5 story dwellings. 2.5 to 3 story dwellings represent 41% of the dwellings or residential buildings on the street. And you'll see that lot sizes along the street are 5.79 meters to, and those that are similar to what's being proposed are about 31% of the properties on the lot, on the street. The variances that are being sought deal with some projections at the front and at the back, as well as some of the grade issues relating to the first floor. The dwelling depth variance for the northerly lot, ports 1 and 3, that is that actually gives rise to the building placement of the front yard setback, and also the tapered condition. So that's why there is a 66 centimeter variance for the depth. The side yard setbacks are because there are small windows on some of the side walls, fire rated windows. Otherwise there'd be a 45 centimeter setback permission, and all of the side yards are larger or at 45 centimeters. The floor space index of 0.98 and 0.97, you'll see in the upper right of my slide that the range within the neighborhood and on Balsam is quite wide. It goes from 0.2 to 1.52 on Balsam and 2.53 within the surrounding area. In that in excess of 0.6 is quite common. That's probably the prevailing. And 0.97 or larger is also well represented, not only in the surrounding neighborhood, but on the street. And I believe that the way that this gross floor area is being deployed on both of these lots with dwellings that are articulated with the setbacks and step backs, you can't, if you look at the renderings, you can hardly see from the street the third story. That it's an appropriate sympathetic form of gross floor area deployment. So I submit, sir, that there's been no adverse impact that results from the severance or the variances that are being proposed, and I recommend that they be authorized. Subject to any questions, sir?
Yes, Yim?
Oh, just a very quick one. The black material, is that metal panel?
Sorry,
The finish.
block?
Yeah, the finish of the both houses. This black, is wood or is metal? I just.
No, it'd be like articulated concrete and brick. So it's not metal. There is a variety of building materials though that you will see siding, also metal on some of the roof.
Oh, see.
Proposed, so there is some articulation
So it's more like the character on the street is a variety of different finishes, I guess. Right?
Traditional building materials, yeah.
Carl?
Yes, I must have missed it. I was looking for a lot analysis to support the consent, and I didn't find it. But you were referring to the widths of properties in the area. Is that somewhere in your presentation that I just didn't find?
No, I don't have the. I do not have a lot table on that slide.
Could you walk me down the street then? Because it seems to me that in order to approve the consent, we need to be satisfied that the property, the consent is creating lots that are not abnormal in size. Just from looking at the area, looking at the survey, looking at the location map, it appears that most of the other properties are considerably larger than the lots that you're creating. Can you walk us through some other properties within a close proximity that are these sizes?
Sure. 31% of the lots on Balsam are 7.64 meters or smaller in frontage.
Where specifically are they?
Sure, I can tell you where they are. And
maybe if we could get a location map and you could show us on that.
Sure. One thing that you're going to find, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, in terms of the building types, is that with multiples, you're going to get larger lots. The detached and the semi-detached are on smaller lots. So that's what we basically see. So
in this particular, the drawing that's on the screen now, the properties on Balsam, they're all across the road. They're slightly narrower, but none of them appear to be as narrow as the lots that you're creating, unless I'm misunderstanding something.
No, well, across the street you have multiplexes. So the multiplexes are not on 7.62 or 7.64 meter wide lots. They're on 15.24 meter wide lots. So as you move up the street, you've got 17 Balsam is at 9.8 meters, 18A Balsam 5.79 meters, 18 Balsam 6.1 meters, 19 Balsam 9.1 meters, 20, 20A, 21 are all 6.1 meters, 21A is 9.1 meters, 22 is 12.2 meters, 23.5 is 9.1 meters, 24 is 6.1, 25 is 7.01, 26 is 6.1, 27 is 7.32. So I can keep going. There's plenty of properties within a stone's throw, less than a stone's throw away, that are smaller than what's being proposed, actually.
That's good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And again, the zoning bylaw allows 6 meters, so that's one of the reasons why you're going to see that happening.
All right, Mr. Romano, thank you. Svetlana Nor and Anton Marinov.
Yeah, we are here. Thank you so much, the members of the committee. Long day for you. So we are just observing, and we have submitted our questions, and they were properly responded and timely, so we are satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Joblin.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Mark Joblin. I'm a lawyer representing the owners of 16 Balsam Avenue, which is immediately abutting the subject lands to the north. The owners are Angela Ray and Brett Kristen, and you heard briefly about our discussions with the applicant from Mr. Romano. We provided a written submission on May 18th. As noted in that letter, my clients had some initial concerns with the original application, in particular with GFA and side yard setbacks. Following discussions, my client is satisfied that the revised proposal, and that's the one filed February 17th, mitigates the impacts from massing and shadowing sufficiently to be satisfied with the application. These changes are to the built form on the plans, in particular of interest to my clients by pulling the front of the house further back on the lot. These changes are not secured in the variances themselves. The mitigations therefore only secured through a condition that the houses be built substantially in accordance with the plans prepared by Hatch Designs dated January 19th and filed with the Committee of Adjustment on February 17th, and in particular that no part of the house be constructed closer to the front lot line than is shown on those plans. And without that condition, my client's concerns have not been satisfied. But the condition itself is, I believe, a typical condition that would often be recommended in a planning report. But as you've heard in this case, there isn't a planning report for the application. But Mr. Romano indicated that the applicant consents to the condition. So we request that if the conditions are approved, that the application be imposed. Subject to any questions, those are my submissions to the committee.
So is that condition attached to the severance or attached to the variances?
It would be attached to the variances.
All right, good. Thank you. Panel, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do have a question to the last speaker. The condition is attached to both part B and C?
I believe they should, yes. The primary concern of my client is part one, because that's the house that neighbors them. But in reviewing the entirety of the proposal, they've relied upon those plans that are submitted. So I think it would be appropriate for both houses to be tied to the plans.
Okay, but I just want to be accurate. There's no part one. It's only part A is the reference, and part B and C are the variances. And you said that they were tied to the drawings that submitted. Are the drawings submitted reflect the condition that you would like to have, or just one of them?
Yes, to both of them, but the primary concern for the house to the north, and the reference to part one is on the proposed R plan, which is part 1 and 3 is the one is the house to the north, and part 2 and 4 is the house to the south. But we would like to see that condition placed on both.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Comments? Do we have a motion? Peter?
Actually, I have one further question of the agent, and it's a small thing, but there's a parking variance just for application C, the parts 2 and 4, in terms of parking in front of the house, but there's not for the other part, for the application B, and I'm wondering why that is.
The northerly lot has a garage, and the southerly lot has a parking pad. That contributes to the differentiation between the two.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. No more questions? Any comments, or do we have a motion? Jim? Do you have a motion?
Excuse me, if there aren't any additional comments, I'd like to make a motion for approval for 37A, the reference, and the applicant has to satisfy all the reference conditions, and also I'd like to move for approval for 37B and C, subject to B is subject to forestry condition 1 and 2. And part C is subject to forestry condition number 1, and both B and C are subject to the condition that the buildings will be built in accordance with the revised plan submitted to Committee of Adjustment. I forgot the date that was submitted, May 17 or something.
Right,
Do you remember the date?
Yeah, good. Do we have a
Someone
seconder?
can help me.
Have a seconder for the motion. Peter? favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. $38, 208 Virginia Avenue. This is also a consent application to obtain consent to sever the property into two undersized residential lots. Part 2, with a lot frontage of 5.08 meters on Virginia Avenue, an area of 154.84 square meters. A new two-story semi-detached house will be constructed requiring variances. Retain Part 1. Part 1 has a lot frontage of 5.08 meters on Virginia Avenue and an area of 154.84 square meters. A new two-story semi-detached house will be constructed requiring variances to the zoning bylaw. Part 1, the purpose of this application is to construct a two-story semi-detached house on the west side of the lot. Part 2, to construct a two-story semi-detached house on the east side of the lot. Mr. Kalemi.
Good evening, community members.
Good evening.
So my name is Mario Kalemi. I am a lawyer with Kalemi Law Professional Corporation, and I'm appearing as agent for the applicant.
Yes.
If you can please pull up our submitted material, we'll be referring to those. Thank you. So the owner is proposing to demolish the existing dwelling, construct a new two-story semi-detached dwelling. We believe the proposed dwelling will provide more housing to the neighborhood and will contribute to the affordable housing compared to a detached single dwelling. We believe the proposed development meets the criteria of Section 51, Sub 24 of the Planning Act, and that the plan of subdivision is not necessary. Although the proposed lot frontages are less than the required by the zoning bylaw, these lot sizes are not premature, as they are within the range of lot sizes found within the neighborhood. If you can refer to page 7, essentially the map reflects mainly a 5-minute walk around the neighborhood, and you will see that on Virginia itself there are a number of different lot sizes, and across the street there are 10 lots that are smaller than 6.1 meters on page 7. And then as you walk to Parker Avenue, Coleridge Avenue, Cedarvale, King Edward, you will encounter numerous narrow lots, including roughly 80 lots that are even narrower than the proposed lots. Furthermore, the proposed development conforms to the official plan. The subject property is designated neighborhoods. The proposed development of a semi-detached residential dwelling, while it's not a permitted use in the RD zone, it's not uncommon in the area to have semi-detached dwellings, including across the street from the subject property. On the third page, you will see across the street 183 and 185, 187 and 189 Virginia, 191 and 193 Virginia are all semi-detached properties. And similarly, on the next page, you will see there are numerous semi-detached houses west on Virginia Avenue, including new developments. And moving on to the next page, you will see that in the surrounding neighborhood, there are numerous semi-detached homes on narrower lots, including 195 and 197 Coleridge, which was an approved severance. As you can see from the proposed plans, the proposed lots would allow for a functional residential dwelling to be built. We've reviewed a number of past developments and minor variance approvals in the immediate neighborhood and found that the requested variances are consistent with the built form and the massing of existing properties in the area. We have created a chart for reference on page 12 and 13 with respect to variances. We have considered the applications against the 4 tests under the section 45 sub 1 of the Planning Act, and it's our submission that the requested variances are appropriate. The development would be suitable and would meet the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. As previously mentioned, it's located within the neighborhoods designation. which allows for a full range of residential uses. The official plan states physical changes to the established neighborhoods must be sensitive, gradual, and generally fit the existing physical character. While semi-detached residential dwellings are not permitted in the RD zone, semi-detached residential dwellings are common throughout the neighborhood and will not change the character of the area. The proposed development conforms with most sections of the bylaw with the exception of lot area, lot frontage, coverage, for floor space index, side yard setback, which in our opinions are reasonable requests. Is the variance minor in nature? The requested variances are not out of character with the similar approved variances in the neighborhood. The variance for semi-detached house, again, while it's not uncommon in the neighborhood, and similar developments have been approved on 317 Westlake and 195, 197 Coleridge Avenue. The variance for reduced lot frontage to 5.08 meters is not atypical, as you can see from our map on page 7, that in the immediate area there are many properties that don't meet the 6-meter frontage requirement, including, again, 195 and 197 Coleridge, which were approved with lot frontages of 4.75 meters. The variance for lot coverage increase to 48.4 is not excessive amount, but rather I would say an average of the approved variances in the immediate area. There are a number of applications for single-family detached houses that are approved for over 50% lot coverage. We could have reduced the variance by applying for a three-story house. However, based on neighborhood consultation, the owner found that the neighbors would appreciate the increased privacy offered by a 2-story home. The variance for increased FSI to 0.85 times the area of the lot is also in keeping with the other approved developments and modest when you compare it to 195 Coleridge, which was approved at 1.19 times, and 1301 Woodbine, which was approved at 1.12 times the area of the lot. The variance for reduced side yard to 0.6 meters would be in compliance with the RD zone requirement once the severance is approved, as the required side yard setback for properties less than 6 meters is 0.6 meters, which is what we have requested. But nevertheless, many other developments have been approved at 0.3 meters, being half of our proposed variance. Finally, is the proposed variance desirable and appropriate for the development of the land? We have discussed the development with immediate neighbors before we even participated, before the plans were prepared, and the owners found that many neighbors were most concerned with the height of the development. They found that they were against a 3-story home, so the proposed development has already taken into account neighbor concerns, and that is why we have an overwhelming support of neighbors for this development. If you turn to page 8, you will see that we have colored in all the neighbors that support the development. We have discussed the applications with roughly 90 immediate neighbors, of whom an overwhelming 73 have provided verbal or written support, and roughly 10 were indifferent, which includes the immediate neighbor that owns properties both to the east and west of the subject property. I know there was one letter of objection submitted, and we have reviewed and discussed that matter with the neighbor. And respectfully, we suggest that the neighborhood and the houses are changing. Her concerns are mainly with respect to the size of the building that will be located on the property. Any new development will be a minimum of 2-story, if not 3-story. So even within the bylaws, a very large detached home can be built on a 33-foot lot. So her concerns that the bungalow is being torn down and the 2 stories going up, again, is unfounded. And I know there's also claims in the objection that there are no other semi-detached properties in the area, which we have clearly shown a map with multiple semi-detached properties. That is all for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Nimrod?
Yep. So my question relates to the existing other sites that have semi-detached dwellings. Did they go through committee of adjustment to get the variance, or are they zoned residential detached? I'm curious what their zoning would be.
For sure. In my presentation, I have included only residential detached zoning. I have not included the semi-detached zoning that is found west of Woodbine. So west of Woodbine, there are numerous semi-detaches that are built, but the zoning there provides for semis. So the properties on Coleridge and Westlake, those were approved semis on a residential detached zoning.
Thank you.
Carl?
Thank you for the lot analysis. It's helpful. Could we go to the one that you indicate you have the lot frontages that are less than 5.08 and then lot frontages between 5.09 and 6.1. The ones that are right across the road from the subject property are green, and therefore they're between 5.09 and 6.1. Can you be more specific? They look fairly uniform. Are they all must be about the same size?
Yeah, they're roughly. I have the measurements in feet here. So the semis, they're 19.72 feet, and the ones at the beginning closer to Woodbine, they're just 20 feet exactly.
Okay, and I have a second question, if I might. Could we go to your elevation drawings? I don't understand one of the elevation drawings. It's, hold on one second. Oh, there it is. It's drawing number 8 of 10. There's no other number on it. It's the front elevation drawing. I don't understand the roof at the front. There's a pitched roof. The side indicate there. That's good. There's a pitched roof over most of the property. What happens at the front? Because it's shown at the front as flat. I don't understand what that block is at the end.
Front is essentially just like a flat wall, just like a projection box. So around the side is a slope, but the front is made it seem like it's a square.
Is there some reason why you wouldn't continue with the pitched roof, which is consistent with the articulation of most of the houses on the street?
The neighborhoods right now we're finding in East York, they're changing more to a modern look, and so the square shape fits more within that with those type of properties.
But those aren't the kind of properties we're looking at. We're looking at context here, and then I believe this particular area, if I'm not mistaken, there's a great deal of pitched roofs in here. So the fact that flat roofs and flat frontages might look great in other places in East York isn't as relevant as what looks appropriate in this location. It's an odd decision and one that I think is inappropriate with the area.
I see. And I think it was just a preference for the owners. It didn't affect the variances requested. So I think it was mainly just the look that they preferred.
Okay.
Then I don't believe it's something that they're attached to, that they're not open to revising if required.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Any comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll start with a couple of comments. I think the applicant did a really good job with lot analysis and showing patterns of lots and housing types within the area. And I was actually surprised to see the amount of semis that were around. I'm in support of this application. I think it's done quite sensitively, and I think it's representing a bit of this change that comes over time, and it's an evolution. I don't think we can expect these neighborhoods to remain one-story bungalows forever, and I think this is a good kind of first step in that evolution. So I'll be supporting it.
Yes, Yim.
Yes, I'd like to add to my comment that when I study the variances, actually it's quite controlled, because the first three is really triggered because of the surface of the lots, and they restricted the variance of about 4 to 4, 5, 6, and averaging, they asking about 10 to 14% more of what's allowed. And then I think that the applicant has practiced a lot of control and try to decrease the negative impact. And I'm also in support of the applicant.
Okay, any further comments? Carl? Carl?
I echo Peter's comments about the lot analysis. It was welcomed and it helped me make up my mind. I would support the consent. I'm unable to support the variances. I don't believe that this built form that is proposed is in fact compatible, consistent, and respectful of the existing lot frontage in the streetscape. The buildings that are there are bungalows for the most part. The ones that are not are still rather consistent with pitched roofs. And they all have large green frontages with a substantial amount of landscape in the front. These particular properties, as proposed, they've got integral garages so that the vast majority of the front yard is taken up by a driveway. I don't believe that the design solution for the houses is compatible or supportive of the neighborhood character. So I will not be supporting the variances, but I do support the consent.
Any further comments? Nimrod?
Yep, so my comment is that I did have some concerns initially with the severance, and I did find it helpful to see the lot study and the amount of semis along the street and in the area, because normally I would have had a concern about changing the permitted use through a variance process. So I am satisfied with the severance. And I don't really have concerns with the variances. Carl, I was I did want to ask you about, did you have a problem with the lot frontage and lot areas, or with what?
No, I thought I'm supportive of the consent. When I first reviewed this, I really was having some trouble with the consent. But the lot analysis that was provided, as Peter indicated, was very helpful. So I don't have difficulty with the consent. I think the buildings are too big and they're out of keeping with the character of the street. It's a street of pitched roof bungalows. And I don't really see how you can install these very high buildings, which in fact are made to look even bigger by that. The reason I asked the question about that cap on the front, that makes the buildings look even taller and even bigger. So my problem here is with the design solution and the fact that the frontages are taken up with driveways, not with any kind of landscaping. So I'm having difficulty with the variances, but the consents I think are fine. The consent I think is fine.
In terms of the height and the built form, I guess that we don't have a variance for height or sidewalls. So I'm not sure. But we do need to respect the existing character when we're looking at variances. And these variances allow this building, which I don't believe is consistent with the neighborhood. If the solution had been one that I support, I would have recommended it, but I would have tied it to plans. I'm unable to support this building. I have no trouble with it being a semi. I don't like the solution.
Severance. Let's deal with them separately.
Sure, I'll put forward a motion to approve for the severance, subject to the engineering conditions.
Right. He said the engineering conditions.
Our standard consent conditions.
Yes,
well.
that's
Thank
right.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, seconder. Do we have a seconder? Yim? All right, all in favor of the severance?
There was also a forestry condition with the consent, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that was with the consent. Okay, yeah, or that's forestry condition number 3?
That's for the consent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's okay. Who seconded that? Yim? Okay.
Yim.
Forestry condition 3 is okay, Yim?
Yes, I thought you called me.
Okay, all right, so the severance is passed. Let's deal with the variances. Lots 38, applications 38B and 38C, the variances. Do we have a motion with respect to the variances?
Sure, I'll move to approve.
All right, no conditions?
No condition.
I don't think there was.
There's an engineering condition.
Oh, sorry.
Our conscience is here.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Okay, so.
I will
Kim,
second it.
You seconded. All in favor of the 38B and 38C applications? All right, and all against? Carl, against? All right.
Yes.
4 to 1 dissent. Okay, you have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 3927 Dunbar Road. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story detached house by constructing a front first-story bay window, a south side 2-story addition, and a rear first-story addition, and to convert the third floor atrium into habitable space. And with this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. And we have correspondence from Heritage Planning and a report from Urban Forestry, 2 form letters in support and opposition from 30 Dunbar, 94 Glen Road, and the South Rosedale Residents Association. Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is David Smith, 401 Craven Road, Toronto, Ontario. I'm here representing the homeowners at 27 Dunbar Road. I would be pleased to provide a bit of background, as this was a deferral from last year, if you'd allow me to make a quick presentation, just to give it a bit of context, and
Yes.
then I'd be welcome to entertain questions.
So with emphasis on the quick, Mr. Smith.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this was to be heard last November. We deferred it out of consideration for discussions with the neighbors. We've had ongoing conversations with them. It's been productive. In the same period of time, we removed a tremendous amount of scope that was on the previous application for last November, including a height variance that was of concern to the neighbors. The variances before you are simply FSI and building length. It's important to understand that the building length is only with regards to the rear ground floor addition, and it's to allow it to align with the existing ground floor addition. The rest of the building sits at the bylaw limit. If staff can go to the supporting materials that I provided, simply put, both the FSI and the building length are under what has been approved in the neighborhood. There are many examples, even on Dunbar Road itself, that exceed what we've asked for. This is also evidenced by the fact that there is no city planning report on file, nor are there any concerns by city staff. Just lastly, with regards to the letters of support and objection, it's important to note that those were from the November hearing. Obviously, the support doesn't go away, but I want to mention that there have been no more letters of objection. We've obviously reached out in the time since and continued to converse with everybody. And I guess the simple fact is I want to make sure it's clear that nobody, in addition, has resubmitted objections or come forward again. This includes the SRRA in that as well. I'll leave it at that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, panel? Do we have any comments, or do we have a motion? Nimrod?
So, were there any other speakers before we?
No.
Okay, so I think that this is appropriate and that the variances are minor. I note that what has changed is that 2 previous variances have now been removed, one for number of stories and the other for a height variance. And so I think this has been improved. It was, I believe, also there was to be a flat roof at one point, and now it's back to a peak. So I think this is appropriate, and I would move approval of the variances. And I'm just checking, there's heritage planning conditions.
And forestry too.
And forestry, okay.
Yes. All right, we have a seconder? Carl, all in favor? You have your approval, sir, thank you. Number 40, 40 Aldwych Avenue. So the purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition, a rear ground floor deck, and a rear second floor deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry, support from 19B Salmon Avenue, and opposition from 16 Aldwych Avenue. Mr. Waterfall?
Present, James Waterfall, agent for the client and owner.
And your address, sir?
Yes, it's 343 at 67 Mowat Avenue here in the city.
Okay. So perhaps you can give us a brief presentation.
Absolutely. So this house is a detached home located in East York. It has an existing rear addition, which is a single story. The owners would like to increase the area of the house. The addition would consist of a basement level, so an increase at the basement level, an increase at the ground floor, not too much deeper than what the single-story existing condition is, but then again with a second-story addition above that. So essentially extruding the back of the house to pick up floor area for a growing family. And I'd say in a nutshell, that's what this our variances are about.
Okay. Any questions, panel? No questions? Okay. Rana Siddiqui.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Good everybody.
Can we have your name and address for the record, sir?
Yes, my name is Rana Siddiqui, 16 Aldwych Avenue, and I'm an owner of the house.
Okay. Can you tell us what your concerns are?
Yes, I am really appreciate for the committee, and I'm in the country where is might is right, where might is right is not there. There is a law, and I follow the laws, and I think this is the best practice committee provide for the residents to speak with their things. Now I'm coming back to the objections. Firstly, the maximum building length permitted by law is 17 meters in the first variances. In the proposed variances mailed to us by the city, it is listed that the development will be 17.82 meters in length. However, this information was misleading as the deck platform was not included in the calculation. In reality, the proposed development will be 18.313 meters long, which is significantly exceeding the lawfully allowed maximum of 70 meters. The second variances, the maximum permitted floor is abbreviated as FSI. Dwelling is 0.75, the area of the lot, and the letter of the variance proposed will have 0.81. Again, this proposition is misleading as the calculation of FSI actually comes to 1.2. And the GFA and dividing by the lot of area. In this case, GFA consists of the ground floor, second floor, deck, and garage, and 50% of the basement, coming to 220.265 meters squared. The lot area is 137.61 meters squared. 220.265 divided by 137.61 gives the FSI of 1.2. And SSI of 1.2 is significantly exceeding the lawfully excessive than 0.75. Thirdly, the maximum third variance is the maximum permitted area of a single story is 4 meters squared. The proposed area is 7.92 meters squared, nearly double the lawful maximum. And number 4, last, the deck is coming very huge, and it will make even the bigger part of that one. People are considering, if you see my figures, I already put in some figures of that one. If you see the figures, it's blocking my all lights of the several windows. If you put up the pictures, please, of the one I put it, it's just too much. People are worried about sunlight about in the backyard, but this is directly impacting my several windows, which is blocking the sunlight. And if you see the drawings, the pictures I sent you, the street, the alleyway in the front is 3 foot, and in the back where they are trying to see is only 1 foot, and which is a safety measure. It's also safety measure. And also, if you see they are killing the sunlight, they are killing the tree, so which is killing the nature. So I'm objecting that one as well. Somebody look into tree. It's a good tree, and we don't want to killing the tree as well. And if it is allowed, the deck should be half of the way. Only allow whatever is allowed by the city by law. And this is everything they are putting, and they are putting one last thing which is not included in the last time. And I take the day of last time, and this is second time they increasing this one, and they put in other variances in that one, and that one also permitted lot coverage is 35% in the number 6 variances, 35% of the lot area, which is about 64 square meters. The proposed lot coverage is 58%, which is about 106 square meters. That exceeds the permitted coverage by 65%. Lastly, every proposed value of 14 Aldwych is extremely excessive and clearly a violation of the bylaw that every family on Aldwych are following. The overdevelopment will have extremely negative impacts on the functionality of our side alley, and it will block our access to the east side sun and east side walkway. And it's totally blocking our sunlight, safety, nature, and yes, this if you see the east trough, number 4, if you see the east trough even 0.0, so they are encroaching to my property. Making by 0.0, they are encroaching to my property. How come they complete the project by encroaching my property? If you see that east trough, and it is also coming in my property, the water can fall on my property. It's dangerous for myself, it's dangerous for my family. So I would request committee to deny this project, and thank you very much. That's all, Your Honor.
Panel, do you have any questions? All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Waterfall?
Yes. If I can, I guess, respond or explain a couple of the components to Mr. Rana's letter of objection.
Yes. Perhaps
Okay.
you could tell us which variances are existing. That might help, for starters.
Okay, sure.
Mr. Chairman, might I ask as well, because you're going to respond, maybe you could do it all at once. The drawings that we have are not complete. We don't have floor plans, and the elevations are misleading. I'm assuming, rather than knowing, that you have a rear deck off of the second floor. Is that correct? It isn't shown as having any screening or any railing. Is it adjacent to? There's no floor plans. I don't understand what's going on with the deck. It looks as though there's there's some columns and some floors, and there's a soffit, and there's no railings and there's no barrier, so I'm not at all sure what's going on at the back. And perhaps when you're responding, you could talk about that as well.
Sure. Maybe what I'll do is I'll address that first, because that'll lead to the, lead into the response to the neighbor's objection. The drawings seem to be actually split into two packages for some reason. We did make some revisions to try and address Mr. Rana's concerns early on. So it seems to me like there are in fact two packages, and one is incomplete. So I'm not sure if you scroll down whether you'll get because I noticed that the first page with the lot statistics, etc., was not showing up.
That's the second submission, and I don't think it clarifies the rear either.
Okay, so this should be part of the first submission because there's a survey there. Yeah, the 26. Okay. I'm not even seeing A0 or A1, which are on the portal, or were on the portal for this hearing. Let me try and I guess comment on the layout. I'm not sure why they're not showing up on your end, but basically the ground floor has a kitchen which sits where the existing kitchen is. At the second floor you have 2 bedrooms currently, and a very so in the retrofit second floor you'll have a bedroom at the very front of the house, a bathroom between grid line F and E, and between grid line H and F, you've got what would be the master bedroom. Off the back of the house, we went back and forth whether we have a trellis on one side to allow light to pass through, to address Mr. Rana's concern about blocking light, or we could do an opaque wall to improve privacy for them. Yes. I wish I could show you the plans. In any case, the deck itself at the second floor is twice the size as Mr. Rana indicated. However, the layout on the second floor, where the client would access the rear terrace or deck, is on the east side of the property, so closest to them. So even if we shrink down the size of the deck, the trellis or the condition would remain. Even if we reduce the area, it would just mean that the client has a less usable balcony. And this is neither here nor there, but both clients are quite tall, and they would like to have 2 loungers out there to sit on in the sun. The house itself and the addition will not impact the tree that's present. The client likes the tree, does not wish to injure the tree, and I believe has satisfied those conditions. Furthermore, we reached out to the client regarding the overhangs of the rear addition, because they wouldn't project into his property, but we were originally proposing a 0 lot line, bringing them up to the 0 lot line, and we could eliminate those overhangs at the rear and just retain the existing soffit level, which would work fine with the design and maybe address some of the neighbors' concerns. In terms of building length, the neighbor's house will still be longer, as you can see here, than the subject property's house. Their house, admittedly, is one story with a vaulted or hipped roof at the back. So, you know, it doesn't really help them on the GFA front, but the building will be smaller. I hope that that helps a little bit to explain the intent and the willingness of the homeowners to address.
Is there a screen then between the ground, there's a ground floor deck and a second floor balcony, if you will. The site plan indicates that the wall extends. Is there then a screen between property at 16 and these decks?
Yeah, so
that looks like there is there.
Yes, so the idea was that we would pull the building's wall out and as a screen to provide some privacy, but we would be open to making it translucent or putting a trellis there. Like, we'd be open to something if light is more of a concern than privacy for the neighbor. But that's what that wall represents in the drawing.
And it's 2 stories in height, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. And we're open to eliminating it completely and just having a guard, you know, a traditional guard round the balcony, and a couple of columns to support it or cantilever it.
Mr. Waterfall, could you go back to the variances and tell us which ones are existing, if any?
Let's see. So I'd say the coverage, lot coverage, we are in excess currently. I'd say we're around 49 to 51%, and I think we're going for
58.
58, yeah. So we're nearly there, but a little shy of that. The location of the, I guess, the overhangs, the soffit level, which is item 4, roof eaves. You know, the existing roof eaves, that condition is there now. Platform, no. Yeah. Building length, no, we don't. We're not contravening the bylaw there now. And item 6 is the coverage. Yeah. So I'd say those are the items. So it would be 4, 6, and 2, I suppose, as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Just 7 times lot area. It's 137. If I can just check, you don't have A1 on there, but I've got it open on my computer. I'll just confirm that I've responded accurately to that item number 2. GFA is 171, is a retrofit, 118 is the current. And we're saying it's 75, which is, yeah, so item 2, no, we fall within that, so.
So item 2 is, you're less than 75 times, 0.75 times?
Yeah.
Okay, do you know what it is?
Bear with me one sec. I'll jump back to my PDF here and see if I can give you that answer. So percentage of coverage, lot area, 183. Building length, building depth, building side yard. 58.6 plus 35. And FSI does not include the garage. 23.9. Okay, so. So 58. 94.1 meters, and then we're doing that out of 181. And bear with me one more moment. Okay, 94.1 of 183. So we're around 51. So yes, so we are below without the garage. At 51, 52%.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, panel? All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
We'll go into committee. And any comments? Or we have a motion? Yes, Yim?
I'd just like to make a comment. It is actually, I was getting lost. I think this is very difficult for me to make a decision. It's incomplete submission, especially with all plans that we do not even know. We're talking about a garage. I'm not too sure why it's included in the calculation. And I agree with Kyle. It's just, for me, it's just too difficult to understand what we are approving or refuse. I actually suggested maybe a deferral to clean this up. I do not know why they are missing drawings, whether they actually submitted them or we just did not receive them. And I do not know why we still asked to make a decision when we do not have the complete package.
No, that's a fair statement. I would like to say that we have deferred this once because of a zoning, a component to the zoning notice was dropped due to a computer issue at zoning. So we have deferred this once, and the plans do show up on on the portal for the Committee of Adjustment. So I'm not sure why you're not able to see them. I downloaded them to make sure everything was there. Is it possible to click back through? I can tell you what the name of the file is that I downloaded from the portal, if that's helpful. But everything was received by BAVIC. Just one moment. The name of the...
Sorry, that's only just my personal difficulty, but if my colleagues can actually understand the application better, I'm open to listen to their comments.
Okay.
All right, so Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I think the applicant has undergone some difficulties. First of all, it was a computer issue that caused one deferral. I agree with Yim, it would be ideal to have a complete submission, but it's not as if the applicant has deliberately not provided us with information. He's provided it, we just don't have it. Based on what he said, I would take him at his word, and I would be agreeable to move forward, providing there was a 1.5 meter opaque screen on the let me see, the east and the west side of the second floor deck. I think I think there is a problem of overlook and privacy issues. I think that screen would address them. I think that's the kind of condition we would normally get from the planning department in a condition like this anyway. I agree with you. It would be ideal to have everything, but I think this poor applicant has, technology has really been against him, and I really don't want to delay him any further. I'd be prepared to go forward with an approval subject to a couple of conditions.
Yeah, do we have a seconder or any further comments?
Yeah, I would as well. I would agree with you, Carl.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, then I'd like to move that the application be approved subject to forestry condition number 2 and the provision of an opaque screen at a minimum of 1.5 meters in height on the east and the west edges of the second floor balcony. And if the applicant, if it's not referred to as a balcony in his plans, then I should be referring to it as something else. I'm open to changing the term.
Say balcony / deck?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Imrod? All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. I have a note, Forestry 2.
Yeah, I added that, sorry.
Yeah, he said Forestry condition 2.
Yes.
Okay. Meeting adjourned 7:29 p.m. Good night.
Thanks to the staff as always.
Thanks, everyone.